What's up, you guys? Sean Ross Sapp here for the Fightful.com podcast. If you're listening to this Friday through Sunday, you are a registered member. If you're listening to this after, you need to go to Fightful.com and get registered, get early access to this show. Now, one of the reasons why I got our podcast co-host for Fridays is because we can talk to him about a variety of different angles that pro wrestling brings you from a talent perspective, from an entertainment perspective, acting perspective. He's got amateur wrestling experience. He works as an agent, but he also works as a promoter and booker of Omega, which a lot of people don't even realize to this day. Shane Helms, what's up, man?
What it is, brother man. Like always, first off, we got to recognize the T-shirt this week. The Four Horsemen shirt. Look at that.
Nice.
Facebook. You can go on my Facebook under Jim Crockett Promotions, I think it is, and they still selling these things on there, so they'll must have for everybody. Got to start every week off with the T-shirt. It's a big hit so far.
I think I'm wearing a Fightful shirt underneath that. You all can get that at Pro Wrestling Tees/Sean Ross Sapp. We're hoping to have a new store up soon, though. Now this week's topic is going to be the process of running a wrestling show, which a lot of people I've got so many questions as it pertains to this. And a lot of people don't even realize that you're promoting and booking Omega. How did that come about? Because obviously you had ties to it for years and years and years, but you're the man behind the scenes now.
The meat and potatoes of the show. Is there anything you want to talk about MMA wise in terms of the UFC this past weekend and some of our predictions? Anything you want to address?
I was right.
You were right on the main event. Do you think that was a good call? Do you how do you feel about the?
I had that fight scored for Duran to me. I had the fight before that scored for Anderson Silva. More, I don't even know if it was as much I had it scored. But whenever I post my scores, I score it as how I think those judges are going to score it. And
so is that really
it's tough.
Judge then?
That's tough. I mean, it's hard because I'm almost of that mentality of where I score like they score, which isn't always a good thing.
Here's my thing. To Derek Brunson's defense, and I had Derek Brunson on Highway to Helms back in the day, and I like Derek. He's a Carolina boy, and he's a very talented fighter with a very talented future. He definitely outpointed Anderson Silva almost across the board in every statistic. So with that, that being said, I understand him being angry. What I didn't like that he did during the fight, and it's something I don't like in MMA, and this harkens back to me being such a Pride fan and to my amateur wrestling days of hating stalling. Like there was a point, twice actually, when Brunson turned his back and ran.
Yep. And
I have a problem within a company called the Ultimate Fighting Championship that you could just turn your back and haul ass. Because this wasn't even like some kind of defensive juking and jiving, moving, getting your hands up type thing. Turn your back and take the fuck off. Like that's when I want to see that yellow card come out. That's when I want to see some stalling. Let's get in there and fight, and go. And now to the main event, like all Jermaine did was stand there and kind of counterpunch. Holly pressed that fight, I bet 90% of the damn fight. And of course, Jermaine was more productive in the counterpunching because Holly was pressing the fight. The fighter that's pressing the fight to me should always get more credit. And the most devastating shots of that fight landed by Jermaine were illegal blows, and points could have been taken off on both of them. Definitely should have been on the second one.
Absolutely should have.
Definitely should have been on the second one. But a friend of mine who's a judge too said that any foul that causes significant damage on the first time doesn't warrant a warning. You can take a point away the very first time.
You can. Yeah.
You can. And that referee sucked. And who knows what could have happened. Maybe having a point taken away might have lit a fire under Jermaine's ass, and she would have jumped on Holly, and we would have gotten more of the barn burner that we all wanted and we all expected instead of the damn snooze fest that we got.
I didn't think the fight was that bad, really. I mean, it was what I expected. Holly Holm is that
kind of fight. For the reason that dedicated watchers like it because you like the combat aspect of it.
Yeah.
But man, the casual viewers had to be bored with that whole card. Other than Poirier and Jim Miller, this was
and Jacare was harmless. The way that I rationalized the Anderson Silva thing, Shane, was that to me, if that had been anybody but Anderson Silva, I would have thought that was one of the most boring fights of all time. But because it's Anderson Silva, there was still that tension for me, that edge of the seat thing where it's like anything could happen. This guy's a legend. That's what made it passable for me. The main event was about what I expected. Holly Holm, and I've said this for years, if you go back, well, I've said this for about a year. If you go back and watch her first couple of fights, it's so unique to watch it because you can tell that she was training for Ronda Rousey from the first fight. There were women that she would have absolutely demolished in the clinch. And it's like all these girls were practiced for Ronda Rousey. She treated them like they were Ronda Rousey no matter who they were. So if she got in the clinch with them, she would immediately back out because Ronda Rousey's going to throw your ass.
Did you notice this? That was the most nervous I've ever seen any fighter ever. She had the jitterbugs. Like she did not stop moving, like going to the damn ring. She's running. She's like bouncing up and down. She's pacing back and forth. And Jermaine's over there kind of just chilling. And like, damn, like, you know, she's burning a lot of energy. And she did it before. I mean, between rounds, she was just over there damn bouncing up and down. It's like, this girl is nervous as damn hell. But, you know, I mean, it's always easy to say these things. It's easy to say these things when you're sitting on a couch, you know, behind a laptop and everything, you know, not in there. But yeah, that was definitely not in my top 100 of UFCs I've ever seen.
She has some of the best footwork in MMA, I think. Like it's beautiful, her footwork. Unfortunately, Jermaine Durandamy, it was just a good matchup for her. Here's the thing. A lot of people, you're going to hear those idiots say, Holly Holm's washed up. She's washed up.
Oh, of course.
I think that if you ranked women's featherweight, she is top 4, probably, in my opinion, women's bantamweights, even though she's lost 3 fights because Miesha Tate's gone. So that girl, she's not ahead of her. And as it pertains to women's featherweights, I'd put her right behind Durandamy and Cyborg. And you have a lot of people saying, well, neither one of these women can fight Cyborg. Somebody tell me the last woman of either of these girls' caliber that Cyborg's fought. She's been fighting people that have the resume of Disco Inferno's MMA career.
Come on now. So, yeah, I don't know. That 145, I don't even know if there was a championship needed in that. You know, I guess, you know, I know the hype, if you build it, it will come. But you got to build a division first, you know.
You know what I was thinking?
Unnecessary championship.
When those illegal blows happen, I'm like, call it a no contest. We can cancel this whole fucking title.
Good call.
We can just get rid of it. And the Derek Brunson thing, it wasn't even like he was resetting when he was turning around. He was just darting around like a lot. Like in the Diaz Conor McGregor fight, you could see what he was doing. You can tell that Conor McGregor did not want his back against the cage because he was fighting a Diaz, and that's RIP. This Sunday, Fightful.com Tuesday MMA co-host Elias Theodorou fights. Guys, tune into that. And I'm assuming this drops Friday. We film this on Wednesday. I'm assuming that Frank Trigg, who is a licensed official, UFC Hall of Famer Frank Trigg, is joining us. I assume that he talked about the reffing on Thursday's show, so check that out as well.
We got Fedor this week too, so one of my all-time
Fedor this weekend, yeah,
and that's scary, man, because Mitrione throws bombs. Mitrione is capable of putting him to sleep. You know, my heart wants to go for Fedor because, you know, I've liked him so long, and I think long-term fans feel the same way, but I think this is a scary fight for him, so I don't know how to pick that one. I'm just going to watch it and hope for the best. Hope somebody goes to sleep.
He was getting worked by Fabio Maldonado last year,
and
Matt Mitrione has heavier hands than that. I think Mitrione has a real chance, but Mitrione's a good opponent for Fedor because I don't think he's going to take him down. Now, this leads into a bit of a current event that I want to talk to you about before we get into the show. I think we'll make that a habit before I get into the topic-based stuff. Brock Lesnar retired from the UFC. Now, I've reached out to WWE, and it's so funny because they never respond to your requests for comment when you need something. But when it's something that you know you're going to get a canned response on, they're right on the ball about that. And I asked them if they had a statement about Brock Lesnar retiring from the UFC. Now, there's a difference in retiring from the UFC and retiring for MMA. Retiring from the UFC means that you are no longer in the United States Anti-Doping Agency testing pool. He doesn't have to update his whereabouts anymore. He doesn't have to tell them where he is when he's in Canada or in the Yukon or hanging out with a moose somewhere, wherever the hell he is. And he hasn't been tested, from what I've been told, for about 5 months. From what I understand, he will be eligible to sign elsewhere. He informed the UFC of his decision last week, is what I was told. He is suspended until July, but one has to think, Shane, if Bellator can swing a Fedor versus Brock Lesnar fight, that would be big business.
That would be their biggest fight of all time.
It might be the biggest heavyweight MMA fight of all time, period, anywhere.
Yeah, without a doubt. It'd definitely be Bellator's biggest.
Yeah. So how do you think that fight would play out? Because I think Brock has a real chance at that fight.
Oh, no doubt. I think Brock would bum rush the shit out of him. I think you can tell by his fight with Mark Hunt that he got out of that trying to trade hands with better strikers phase. Just go take him down, do what you do. That would be his best shot, and just hope that one of those crazy fatal haymakers don't land.
A lot of amateur wrestlers have really good jabs, and Brock has never been an exception because they're used to leading with that foot a lot when they shoot. But yeah, the Brock Lesnar UFC thing, that's very interesting. Did you think he was going to fight again in the UFC?
Probably not. I didn't put a lot of stake into it, but after his last whatever, I thought he had contested that thing somehow, but I never heard the end result of that. I really don't give a shit about that whole, it's just one of those things I just think is really overblown and overhyped. So, but no, I thought after the last time when he got popped that probably would be it. He made a huge payday. He got what he wanted out of it. UFC got what they wanted out of it. The only person that didn't get what they wanted out of it, of course, was Mark Hunt. So if he's got his WWE stuff going on, if he can go to Bellator and continue making money that way, more power to him.
Now, this all ties in together because there is a guy who fights for Bellator on that TNA roster. And
I'd love to see Bobby Lashley versus Brock Lesnar. I would love.
You want to talk about a big fight. Now, here's the thing. It always can – I don't know why UFC never signed him. Probably because they didn't want him to do pro wrestling, for one. But, I mean, you look at some of the heavyweights they've had on that roster, and I'm like, man, I don't get it. But that would be a gigantic fight for Bellator as well. Brock Lesnar, Bobby Lashley?
Oh, that'd be great, man. I'm too close to that one to even try to pick. They're my buddies, I'm definitely more closer to Bobby these days. We've always been great friends. So I can't even try to dissect that one. My heart would, trick my brain into just saying pro Bobby, knowing that Brock is a damn beast. So, I'm going to have to stay away from that one. I'll watch the shit out of it, though. I would go to that one.
Yeah, that'd be a hell of a fight. Now on to the topic of today. We're talking about running a wrestling show. I was super interested in this topic and got a lot of requests for it over the last week after our mailbag episode. If you didn't check out our mailbag episode, go back and do that. Our shows withstand the test of time pretty well. So definitely go check that out. And of course, go visit Fightful.com for all your MMA and pro wrestling and boxing news. Now, Shane, how did you get involved with this aspect of Omega? As I mentioned earlier, you had ties to the company way back in the 90s, of course. So it's obviously something that was close to your heart, but what made you decide this?
Well, even back in the day, the biggest shows that Omega did, the biggest money-making shows in as far as gate and attendance were shows that I promoted. I did most of them around Sanford, Southern Pines area. But we did a couple in my high school, which was just outside of Raleigh, North Carolina. And I took over the reins of promoting those. And even back then, they were our most successful shows. It was just something I really hustled at. I would try, I would come up with a lot of different ways to get the word out, which is the secret to promoting and marketing. Where it all starts, that's the hard work. I especially this last run of the Omega shows that I've booked and promoted, I got so much more respect for promoters now and understanding of what they go through, because it's a damn headache. It's a massive headache, and it's annoying, and it's, tedious and monotonous, and it'll drive you berserk. Like what Vince McMahon has to have went through in his life. Like there's no damn wonder he's crazy. Try being a damn wrestling promoter. You will understand that shit without a shadow of a doubt. But even when I first got involved into the industry at age 13 years old, for a company called the Carolina Championship Wrestling Alliance back in the day, and this was around 1988, 89. One of the first things I started doing for them was being a talent scout. Wrestling was just my thing. Just had an eye for it, could always do. I would start helping them book guys, help them put the cards together. And you're talking about 14, 15 at this time. So I've just always been interested in that aspect of the industry as well. But of course, I wanted to be in the ring. So once I started doing that, once I got my in-ring break, and I was off to the races with that. But we brought Omega back actually to do a charity show for a friend of ours named Chuck Coates, Mad Max, as he was known in WCW. As far as enhancement talent and stuff like that, worked Sting and some of the other big names. So he came down. He's actually had a couple bouts with cancer, and we decided to do a benefit show for him, and that was kind of the origin of Omega coming back. The show turned out really great. We raised about $15,000 for him. Why don't we just keep doing this? And so, and that's kind of how the Omega Lives, at Omega Lives is the Twitter handle. That's kind of how it came back to life for this second go round.
So at what point, like how far out, when you say I'm running a show, how far out is that?
I try to go a couple months because we're a bigger show. We're bigger. We're like too big for armories, but we're not big enough to do arenas. So we're kind of in a tricky situation, So, and to market it really good and completely, I say you need at least 2 good months. And so the first step, of course, would be to get a date and get a building. That's your first step, to agree with everybody that this is the date we can use, and find a location. And the hard part with that is that me, Matt, and Jeff have to all have the dates free, whether it's with TNA or whether it's with our indie dates too, because I want 2 of the 3. Preferably to have all 3 of us is the most beneficial to the company. So that's our first step, is just finding a date that me, Matt, and Jeff are free, and then getting a location and going from there.
So what all do you have to go through at this point? How do you decide to book a venue when you're too big for armories, too small for arenas? And what's that process like? Is that ever an uphill battle finding a place, or have you pretty much found some places will run the same venue each time?
Yeah, we got a couple different selections, that we can choose from. You try to go for a high school gym works pretty good for us. If you can get about 1,500 people in there, and our average, I think, is 1,300 people per show. So, a decent sized high school gym, not a small one. If you get into a primary school or elementary school or middle school, sometimes the gyms can be a little smaller. You generally want a high school, or if places like community centers, event centers, stuff like that. There's an aquatic center in Smithfield, North Carolina, that has a real big gymnasium type things that you could pack a bunch of people in. And that's my hometown, so that's always a good base for it. My hometowns have always been sellouts. I don't know why, y'all.
So I mean, the high school gym thing. The high school gym thing too. I mean, there's a lot of seating readily available. You don't have to bring in a whole lot for that. Obviously, on the floor you do. What are some other benefits of running places like that?
Well, I'll tell you a negative about running a school gym is because sometimes the easiest thing to do is just rent the gym out. But we like to always do some kind of charity thing where we can give a portion of proceeds to whatever, just to help. We've always done that, whether it was the North Carolina or different things like that. So sometimes when we go to do schools, they're going to want to try to get involved. But here's what I've noticed. They don't do shit. They just want the money once the show's over. They don't want to help at all. And they say they will. And they're like, yeah, we'll have all the parents. We'll do this big parent teachers thing, and all the parents will be here, and they'll all chip in, and they'll all sell 50 tickets a piece. And they don't do shit.
Yeah.
They just never do. So you just can't count on them at all. So, you generally learn that the hard way. I learned that from watching other people's mistakes. So I never relied on that. I was like, no, I'd rather just have a flat fee on this gym. If there's money to be given to any type of a charity, we'll handle that. We just give us the gym, and everybody's happy. Y'all and we normally give them the concession stands too, because I don't want to handle that shit.
Yeah.
And that's where they'll make a couple $1,000, and that's just, I really just have to convince them, listen, y'all just do the concessions. You're going to have 1,100 people here.
Does that all go to them, or do you get a portion of that?
No, normally you could negotiate a portion of that because you're the one bringing in the audience. But that's one of the things where I don't really want to have to deal with that. Mm-hmm. I'm more focused on the show, and I just want to kind of handle that. And that's how I kind of find a good compromise. Like, listen, let us do this. We're going to keep all the ticket money. You keep all the concession money, because you're not doing shit. We're doing the show. We're doing all the work. You're just standing there handing out hot dogs or whatever the hell it is you got at your concession stand and taking in the money. And normally, and I'll say it a little bit more, delicately when I talk to them in that aspect, but that generally fixes that scenario.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times you'll have places like that buying those 34 packs of water and making a $30 profit on them, selling them at concessions for $1 a pop. So I would imagine.
Yeah, and I've had schools that when it was over wanted like some of our ticket sales.
Really?
They came up and tried to renegotiate. I told them to go fuck off. Basically, was how that conversation went. It was like,
you ever returned to a place like that?
Yeah, but not dealing with that same person. Like when we went back, because normally the principal or somebody will contact me. It's like, yeah, we don't know if you guys want to do another show, and I'll explain to them. Say, yeah, but this is what happened last time, and that was very dishonest, and it was greedy, especially for the minimal, if anything, amount of work that the school does. They do nothing. All they have to do, they have a space that we use to put on this show, and we're going to put the show on anyway, whether it's at this school or another school. And so that's normally, my sales pitch anyway. Like, so we're going to do this show, and we can give. I mean, this other school can get the money, or you can get the money. Is what do you want to do? But yeah, and then we had one guy. This was pretty interesting. He went out and we had given the school, like, whatever, 30 tickets or something. Here, you guys take these for yourselves and just do whatever you want to with them. If you sell them, that goes to you. Now, like and that's kind of like you go sell those on your own,
Yes.
If that's what you're going to do, or if they're going to give them out to people, that's at their discretion. But we always try to do that. And so the doors haven't opened on this show yet, and the athletic director is walking out trying to hawk his tickets, the ones that we gave him for free, to the line that's already lined up.
Oh no.
Yeah. And man, boy, and I about lost it. Then I about lost my shit. My partners, Mike Maverick, who is the serial thrillers with me and Omega, and another guy named David Taylor, not the David Taylor from WWE. They're the ones that helped me do a show along with a guy named Jim Hall. They had to talk me. They had to diffuse the situation because I was ready to go whoop his ass.
So, I mean, that's a lot of that's a lot of stuff that people don't realize that somebody might have to deal with. Then you got to book wrestlers. Now, how does that work? Do you contact them personally?
Yeah, I contact everybody on the Omega cards. I book everybody. I contact everybody. For me, it's a little bit of an easier process than for a regular promoter because I got a reputation. I got a very stand-up reputation in the community. Especially amongst the wrestlers, I pay good, which they all tend to enjoy. They know my shows are going to be good. I'll cater. I'll have some food for them. It's not, and I'll have water. I mean, I go to indie shows sometimes and they won't even have water for the boys. So I make sure we at least got water. But we'll always have food for them and stuff like that, and they know they're going to be treated well, and they won't have to worry about any bullshit. So that's where I got a little bit of an advantage, And a lot of the newer guys kind of just want to work with us anyway. I've invited a bunch of the local promoters in North Carolina to our show. Like when I first brought Omega back and we decided that's what we were going to do, like I put out, mission statements, and I'm not trying to run anybody out of business, but there is a lot of shitty companies out there, and I want y'all to get better. So come to our shows, watch our shows, see what we do. I didn't think some of them would like jack the ideas that we did back completely, like some of them did, but it is what it is. But you can see in North Carolina now, since Omega came back, all across the state, the shows are better. And some of the little shitty companies have just fizzled away. So it's kind of a self-correcting system that I helped create there.
You're seeing places in that area like CWF that are getting a pretty good following.
Oh, CWF, they're kind of like our feeder school. If we had an NXT, it would be CWF. Yeah. I've known those guys. One of the guys that runs CWF was at my very first show that I went to, that I performed on in 1991. He was out in the crowd, and we became friends since then. They've done that little company, and they're in a smaller building. It's about the size of an old TV studio that you used to see like Mid-Atlantic Wrestling on. They've done over 300 shows. Mm-hmm. So they work hard and they put out a solid product that they care about. So I'm a big fan of that group. You got the PWX down around Charlotte area. You got AML around Winston-Salem area. The CWF, of course, is my one of my favorites. I forget what Carino calls his company. We'll have to look that up. But Steve Carino's got a company more toward the coast that does really well. There's Ring Wars and it's fucking hard to say. In Fayetteville, that's really good. So there's some good ones. There's some really good ones out there. But the main thing is the shitty ones have kind of disappeared. And not that I wanted them to disappear, but I've always had the mindset that there's going to be somebody in your show that it's their first indie show they've ever been to. And if it's fucking rotten, they might not ever go to another one. And so that's when I see really bad shows. That I'm always, that's something that always is in my mind. Like, man, they're fucking it up for everybody else because of how bad this is. And so, like I said, that was one of my mission statements. I want every company to get better. Be proud of what you do. It doesn't have to be this backyard bullshit.
How often do you have wrestlers contact you to get booked? Like, I know that's a thing. People will send highlights and stuff, but how often do they contact you for bookings?
Every day the sun comes up.
And how often do people get booked that way?
It definitely happens. There's, if I don't know who you exist, it's going to be super hard for me to book you. So, and I tell most of them, look, even if I don't reply, or, I've said this in other interviews, even if I don't reply, keep sending me because, sometimes I'm just busy and it'll fall through the cracks. And maybe, I do like this person or I do like this talent, but, I get, on my email is right now 2,700, and that's after I've taken a bunch off. So shit slips through the cracks sometimes, and that's how I got noticed too. It wasn't like Ted Turner came and knocked on my fucking door, or you gotta get yourself out there. So, and it's a lot easier to contact these days with social media. So
exactly.
So I don't go out searching for guys too much. There might be guys I didn't know and I wanted to book for whatever reason, but for the most part, it's almost always been people that came my way.
The same applies, honestly, to wrestling journalism, too. We're not coming to get you guys. Knock down doors, email us, stuff like that. People are always asking, how do you get into wrestling writing? I can't find you if I don't know who the hell you are. So send an email, send some samples, guys.
You got to buy a ticket to win the lottery.
To your point about like crappy shows ruining for everybody. Yeah. I've been to shows. I've been booked on shows and then I see what's on there and I'm like, I can't do this again. Like you see people now. There's a lot of debate on the indie circuit, especially the very, very low levels about gear and what people should be wearing. And when you see people, I'd love to know what you feel about that. You see people on Monday Night Raw wearing khakis and jeans and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. And is that something that should be replicated on the indies or even the low levels even? Or do they all need to be wearing gear?
I think when you see it on TV, there's a purpose and there's a character there. It's not because they can't afford gear. And I think that's the big story. that damn Raven, when he started that look, it was over. That damn Raven, you know, and Matt and Jeff too, with the baggy club pants and the tight shirts. I mean, you know how many fucking Hardy Boy clones there are out there, and Raven clones. There's probably more of the Ravens one because I saw that shit everywhere. Yeah. I like gear. I like wrestling gear on wrestlers, you know, and if it's some kind of weird gimmick and it somehow works, then okay, I definitely understand that. To see it come from a place of creativity, that is a character, not that you can't afford gear or you just don't want to buy gear and then you go to create a character just to match the bullshit that you have in your closet, because that's what happens. Guys go to the fucking Hot Topic, or I don't know what the store is today, but that's what it used to be, and they put some shit together and then they create a character to fit that shit. You know, that's not exactly how things should go, in my opinion. Yeah. You know, I think you need to learn how to work first and then work on your character, and let's go from there. But generally, the shitty gear and shitty work go hand in hand. That's kind of generally how it happens. When guys are good workers, they take pride in what they look like, and that's when you'll see it happen. Now, I mean, of course, there's going to be some guys that have shitty gear, are really good, and maybe they just can't afford it. But in this day and age, man, you can get on highspots.com. There's your plug.
There you go.
And they got gear. They got every damn thing. You can get
it ain't hard to buy a singlet, guys.
You know, and when I first started, I wore my amateur singlet, you know, and I had my amateur shoes. So I didn't have the boots. So I understand I couldn't afford boots. And I didn't even know where the hell to get boots at the time. I mean, it was a very different age when I broke in. But then I started to realize that, you know, I was getting heat because I didn't have boots, and that was causing a problem. So, and also it hurt my damn feet and I broke my toes. So I got me some damn boots, and I never went back. I prefer wrestling gear. I prefer to see guys looking like an actual professional instead of some guy off the street.
I'll tell a story that kind of really helps validate your point on that very, very lower level. Myself and my catch wrestling coach were asked to work a show. We worked against each other, and they did it because people knew him through the fight team. People knew me because my face is on a screen here and there. And it was for a good cause, a good charity show, did like 250 people. It was a little outdoor show, beautiful day. We were the only two people on that whole show with gear. And I was like, thank God we're working each other. Thank God we're working each other. I came to the next show to support them as a spectator. I think I covered a UFC show that night. I couldn't work it. There were 70 people there. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't because of the weather. And there wasn't anybody on that show with gear. Well, since that first show, people, I don't know if they saw us and were like, maybe we should get some gear, look a little more legit. I don't know what it was, but it ruined a lot of people on it. A lot of people didn't come back because what they saw wasn't on the level. And good cause or whatever, if it's not good, people ain't coming back. So I
you know, and if there's no argument that it's Bush League shit, mm-hmm. You know, that's going to leave an impression on the fans that you don't want. And it's an impression on some of the talent that actually has a pride. You know, that's why I'm very selective on the indies that I do. You know, and there's a couple that caught me off guard. You know, the payday's good, so I got to assume they're a good promotion. Then I get there. And evidently they sold their fucking car to pay me or something because the promotion will be shit. And, you know, they didn't do any marketing or promoting, so there's not many fans there. So I was like, oh, okay. You know, and
that's another thing. That's another thing I want to ask you. Like, okay, you see these shows overseas that do maybe a couple hundred people. How in the hell are they affording to fly a Shane Helms or a Matt Riddle over there, pay you off, pay for your hotel, pay for your flight, and all that? Like, how do they afford that?
I don't know. You know,
money marks? Like, what is it? Do you know? Like, is there any way?
I mean, they got to be making money some way unless they're, you know, the money mark term is funny, you know, because if you got money, you're marked for anything.
Sure.
You know, so that's one of those terms that's kind of it's a derogatory term, but we need those in the business. That's what investors are. Investors in any business ever,
money marks
could be easily labeled as a money mark, you know. So I don't know, you know, I know like with me, man, Jeff per se, okay, now we all come with a price tag. On Omega, you know, I even though it's us, you know, we still like to give us some money because we are working.
Yes.
But now the talent price isn't what it would be for somebody else, obviously. Mm-hmm. But like when I bring in a Chris Daniels or a Scotty Too Hottie, or I brought in Rick Steamboat, Tommy Dreamer, Mick Foley. Now that comes with a price tag, of course. So you just got to budget it out, and that's what I would do. I would make a talent budget, and look at the tickets that I think we could sell. And I would have that money ready though. But, again, I'm in a little bit of different area than the regular indie promoter because I got money in the bank. So my boys are going to get paid. Like I got the money in the envelopes before the doors open. My talent is going to get paid. The referees are going to get paid. And I pay these guys way more. Like some of the local guys, indie guys, I know they don't get this anywhere else. I know that. I'm a money mark. I want to do that. I want them to go home with a decent payday. And I want them to remember that because say they started getting a bigger name elsewhere. Okay, that doesn't mean you're going to get a super bonus now. Mm-hmm. Okay, because just remember I overpaid your ass for years. So you need to do me a little bit favor. But I just kind of think that's good business. If you take care of people, hopefully they'll take care of you. That's the hope anyway. But
to that word, it's got a negative connotation.
I don't know how.
It's got a negative connotation, but it really shouldn't. I've heard that. While I absolutely hate the Insane Clown Posse's music, I've heard nothing but great things about the way that they treat pro wrestlers and the way that they pay pro wrestlers and pro wrestling personalities for their business.
Let me just say, fuck you, because I love me some ICP.
Hate the music. Hate the music. It's trash.
I do not think you can call something trash that has the following they have. You just can't do that. You do not like it, maybe, but you can't call it that.
It's trash in my opinion. It's subjective.
I'm not the biggest Justin Bieber fan in the damn world, but you can't call this shit trash because there's a bunch of people that like that shit.
It's trash.
They take care of people pretty well.
That's what I heard. Bill Apter told me a story about how they took care of him very well. And, Bill Apter, not a guy you would expect to see at a gathering of the Juggalos. And he said it was a wonderful time.
But check this out, though, because they're entertainers and they've done small venues and they've done good venues. So they know what it's like to get treated shitty. Mm-hmm. So their experience is what makes them want to do that. My experience with shitty promoters is what makes me want to have a better experience for the guys that I'm putting the show on for. We've been there, so we know what it's like. A lot of promoters, to their defense, they just don't know. How would they know?
Yeah, there was a story. I can't remember if Terry Taylor or Bruce Pritchard told it about Jerry Jarrett offering people such low money. They were like, how can you justify this? And Jerry Jarrett said, well, these guys would pay me to be on my show. And that's a rough mentality. To compare that to pro wrestling, there are people who have literally offered to pay me to write articles for the site. And I'm like, that's a dangerous road to go down. And eventually that hurts me. That hurts me come negotiation time if somebody is willing to do my job for free. It's bad.
Now I've had guys that offered to work for free to come be on the show. Mm-hmm. And even gave me some super low price. When they got to the show, I still paid them what I would have paid anybody. I would never have somebody on my show to work for free that I don't think I would ever do a deal like that.
What happens in the event of a no-show? Have you had that happen yet?
Not a no-show per se, where they just don't show up without reason. I had that. Had a couple guys have to pull out. I booked Moose once, and the Ring of Honor date came up in Vegas, and all of a sudden they needed to fly him out early, and so I canceled. And I think maybe on one of the shows, Cedric Alexander had to do the same thing too. But good reasoning. I should say reasoning, not excuses, and giving me time to plan accordingly. So no, I ain't never really, like I said, that goes again to me having a pretty good reputation, and people don't generally want to fuck me over. So
anybody that just ever didn't want to cooperate with whatever plan that you had for them and maybe made a fuss about it?
No, I wish I had a good story like that, but like I said, man, this locker room, and I don't tolerate that. I don't tolerate,
Sure.
I will be the biggest asshole in the locker room. Anybody that's a worse asshole than me, then you must be an awful human being, and I can't have you there. But no, no real problems. There was actually one where I wanted the guy to go over, but his gimmick was that he wanted to do the job, and so he actually fought to go under to do the favors, and it was like, I said, this is some shit that just don't happen a lot, you know. And
did he do the job?
I wanted, and it wasn't nothing that was going to affect what the story I was trying to tell throughout the show. And so, you know, I'm very cool with if guys got something crazy or some kind of weird idea, like let's discuss it. That type of thing. I'm that type of guy. So it wasn't nothing that bothered me, and it actually worked out even better. So
now sometimes you bring in ROH TNA guys. A lot of times, based on their current push on TV, do you have to plan your booking accordingly? Because, for example, say if Braun Strowman was allowed to be booked for Omega, WWE ain't going to be happy if you book him to lose.
Yeah, but those are jackass promoters that do that, and I've dealt with them. I dealt with, you know, see, I got a different philosophy. There's some people that say you get paid, so do whatever the hell you're told. Like I don't agree with that. See, it's because of the work I put into it for years. Just because you're paying me for that night, that doesn't mean you control my whole damn life. That's not what that means. And I told, and this is a good line that the boys tend to like to, when it happened, you know, promoter says something. I said, listen, I get paid to appear. Appeared. What happens next is at my discretion. You know, you got to be smart about doing business, you know, and when I bring guys in, I would want to highlight them. I would want to show them, you know, especially if they're big money, shit on them and put over some guy that nobody knows. Like that to me, that's just silly booking. Unless we got multiple dates and we're going to do a storyline, you come in, do a little bit of business, and we both get something out of it. Say if it's a newer guy going to get something out of it, things like that. But when the promoters just bring in, and I had a guy say this to me and Rosie, because we were doing an indie shot, and he's like, words out of his mouth said, we like to bring TV guys in and have them put over our guys. And I just go, yeah, well, that's not what I do. You know, we're the superheroes. We're here to save the fucking day. You can't come out here and just beat us for no damn reason without, you know, in some kind of nonsensical match. I can go out there and have fun, and if it's good, and I put over guys that when it was something good that happened out of it, and I ain't gonna prostitute out my character and the work I put into creating this character just for one night, one promoter. You know, I don't need money that damn bad. You know, there's some guys out there that do, and they got to do what they do, and that's on them. But the Hurricane is my shit. You're just renting it. You do not own it.
So when you tell them maybe you don't want to do the job like that, do they try to lowball you on money after that or renegotiate?
No. The money is the same. The money is, like I said, I get paid to appear. Yeah, motherfucker, I have appeared.
Sure.
So, but I've heard of guys doing that. I've heard of guys doing that they'll do the job for more money. To me, it's not about that. You know, I have a really weird character. My character is a superhero. I need, number one, I need a villain. Don't book me in there with a baby face, because that shit drives me nuts. You take away my character. I need a villain. More than any other character in the history of this business, the superhero needs a villain. I need somebody nasty and mean and ugly, because that's the story that the superhero tells. If I ain't got nobody to save, you kind of fucking my shit up, and you fucking your shit up because you fucking up. Why would you even bring me anyway? And I've told promoters this, like, if you wanted just another wrestler, you should have booked anybody. You booked me, the Hurricane, because of what I bring to the table. So you got to let me bring it to the table.
So when you start your show, how many people do you have there working, volunteering, doing whatever it is, whether it's setting up the ring, setting up chairs, taping things off, putting up a guardrail, anything?
Well, number one, here's what I do. I get a ring from Hot Spots, because they come with a crew. They put that shit up. Nice. CWF, actually CWF. I get the ring from CWF. Hot Spots brings the camera equipment, so they set up all the camera equipment and shit like that.
They run it as well?
Yep. Big Mike Maverick, we got this overhead light system. You know, I like the old school. I don't like all the lights on in the building. I like the dark environment with just the lights on the ring. That to me, that creates a more intimate, old school setting, you know. And people, when the lights are dark, the people get a little bit more crazier too. That's another thing I've noticed, a psychological thing. When the lights are on, people are a little bit more, you know, concerned about how they look or come off to other people. But when it's dark, they'll yell, go crazy, and just do whatever the hell they want to. So I like that old school setting there. And a CWF, they bring a ring crew, so that gets all set up. You know, whoever the building is, they normally help with the chair setup. But we got a couple guys that, you know, just love wrestling and love to be there, and they'll come and help as long as we, you know, throw them a ticket or two or something like that. So there's definitely volunteers. You know, I'm hands-on with everything. My woman Karen comes out to do a little thing, you know, so you always got a couple of extras out there helping, but we never have to beg people. Everybody, luckily with this group, you know, very fortunate, offers to help a lot.
How far ahead do you start booking the show? Like deciding who beats who, what goes where, formatting the show?
Once I get the date down, that's my mind starts racing right away. You know, I decide what I want that main event to be.
Are there some nights you can't sleep? Perhaps you're like so excited. Do you still get that?
I get that all the time anyway. I'm just, you know, I got a hyperactive brain, so you just start thinking about shit. You know, I'll wake up in the middle of the night, and like I got some idea in my head, and I'll sit there and it'll drive me damn crazy. You know, because now I need to get back to sleep because I got to get up and work out. You know, so. But that's good, you know, to have that kind of excitement about something. That's a great feeling to have. So that doesn't bother me. But yeah, I normally start with the main event. That's why, because that's what I want to end. How I want to end the night, and then how I want to end the night. That sets the tone for what I want to do throughout the show. Promoters miss, and what I think a lot of younger talent miss, is that a show tells a story just like a match does. Flow. That's why when you got these guys that want to go out there and steal the show every match, they could definitely fuck up the flow of the show. You know, you can't really have just a whole bunch of nuclear explosions going on for 2 hours. You need some dips, you need some dives. There'll be in this match here, you know, maybe earlier in the show, I want something kind of crazy to happen. But then the next match, I want you guys to stick just to wrestling, okay? Because we did a bunch of crazy shit in that one. I needed people to take a breath. Don't go out there and stink it up. That by no means is ever the case. But right here, we need to tone it down a little bit. And maybe there's some comedy over here, okay? So now here I want to get serious because we just did some comedy before. I need to remind them that we're athletes again. So now let's do some serious shit. And that's where guys miss. That's when the promoters go out and just let the guys do what they want. Promoters generally never have been in the ring, and they don't understand that you need to be telling a story, and you need to have the crowd ready to explode by the end of the night. Now, if you've had guys out there doing moonsaults to the floor all night long, you know, just for the pop of it, without rhyme or reason, you're going to exhaust the crowd. And there are every now and then there's crowds that might not get exhausted, but you need to bet on, you know, on the odds. And the odds are that by the end of the night, that crowd is going to be pretty tired. So you got to have some good shit at the end. You got to have your main event guys at the end ready to go.
Yeah, I would imagine that PWG crowd is a whole lot different than a North Carolina crowd that may have grown up on a different style of wrestling, maybe used to a different sort of thing. So yeah, that's an interesting aspect to really look at it. And you really answered my question of, do you format it a certain way? Who knows the finishes? Like when you're going into a wrestling match, is it just you, the guys, and the ref? Like,
yeah, that's all.
Some people don't even clue the ref in because they want them to treat it as a shoot.
Yeah, I don't really think there's a purpose in that these days. You know, I don't really see the benefit of that. I think we know what wrestling is at this point in our lives. So yeah, and I'll talk to the guys, you know, and I actually say, okay, and maybe it's just okay, I need a baby face up here. You know, that's what I need. Come up with a couple ideas and hit me, you know, a little bit before the show, because I want the guys there a little bit earlier in the day. Don't show up 30 minutes before the show. You know, I get my guys to go up a little earlier because they know it's a bigger deal. And everybody is generally, you know, pretty easy to deal with in that aspect. And if they got something good, and it might be, like I say, something that's, all right, listen, that's a great idea, but it's just too much for this right here, what we need. And guys learn from that. But, you know, everybody that does that, you know, they might not agree with it at first, but then they see it later on. And like I've just had, you know, guys after guys go, okay, I thought you just didn't like what I was doing. Like, no, I love what you're doing, but we just don't need that in the first match. You know, so guys like that, you know, most of the guys appreciate it and they learn from it, and it helps them grow as a performer.
What does your ref know? Like, does he have an earpiece? How do you handle that, being on, you know, you're a smaller scale than TNA, WWE? Well, sometimes, I mean, you do very, very good crowds. How instrumental are they in what you are doing in the ring?
They just know the finishes. I don't know. They go over that with the talents. You got to have good referees. That's very important. A jackass ref can mess everything up. So you got to have some refs that are good. And luckily there's a couple good refs in the area. So one comes down from Virginia, and those are the ones that I trust, especially if they're going to be in there with my main event guys, or, like I said, if I bring Tommy Dreamer in or something like that, I want to ref with him. That's going to not go out there and fuck it up, because I don't want the guys to come back, because then it's my fault. That's the thing as a promoter booker. Every fuck up is going to be your fault somehow, so you got to be held accountable for that. So, I just make sure I use talented people. My first rule of booking is don't book people that suck. I cannot stress that enough. And I see it on shows that there are people out there that just are fucking abysmal. But keep in mind, those are generally shows that don't have the luxury of doing what we do in Omega. You know what I mean? So I know you got to get good somehow, but on my shows, like being a little bit bigger than the average indie show, I just don't book people that suck. If I think you suck, you're not going to be on my show.
So, I mean, there are a lot of people who do the accentuate the positive, hide the negative thing. If they know that somebody's green, they'll put them in a situation that doesn't necessarily expose them. Have you had to deal with that yet at Omega?
There'll be guys a little bit greener than some of the other guys, of course. But like I said, if I think a guy can't perform, if I think he's not ready, I'm not going to put him out there. I don't give a shit what the situation is. It's not worth it to me. You got to have pride in what you do, and you can't have pride in somebody going out there and bombing the whole fucking show, because it doesn't take in. It's so easy to kill that crowd, and I'm not talking about killing them with all. You can kill them with some bullshit, and once you kill them with that bullshit, boy, it's hard to get them back. It's hard to get them back. So that's a very important thing.
Say one of your guys uses a chair. Where does that chair come from, and are you paying a deposit on that chair?
I ain't paying shit. I mean, we'll have steel chairs. We know somebody's gonna get hit with a damn chair, so we'll have some chairs out there. Stuff like that, I'll have them. If I do a little meeting before the show, or whatever, it's like, all right, if you guys are gonna use chairs or anything like that, just let me know. But I've never had a problem with that. I mean, there's a chair out there. If it gets banged up and I got to pay $20, 30, whatever the fuck a chair costs, I'll do it. Ain't no big deal.
Guys, a reminder, subscribe to us, iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube. If you subscribe to us on iTunes and Stitcher, you get the show the same time as members on Fightful.com do. So do that. We are going to introduce a new thing. We're going to try it once. If it works, we're going to keep doing it. We'll do a full show called Work or Shoot, where I give Shane a story and he'll tell us if it's a work or a shoot. But we're going to save that for another day. Now, I got to ask you, Shane, what do you consider a successful show that you're running?
If the product's good, because number one, I'm still the artist, man. My artist mindset supersedes my business mindset. And in a good company, you got to have guys that are handling the business, and they want to make money, but you also got to have people that actually care about the art, because the business side tries to kill the art because they don't care about the art. They don't care what's out there. All they care about is the money coming in through the door. Now, money is very important. I'm not saying it's not, but I also have a lot of pride in what we put out there. So a successful show to me is a great show that makes money.
So how often, is that something you ever concern yourself with? Like maybe you're getting in too deep financially. Is that ever a concern? I mean, you are putting in some money into these things.
Yeah, but all our shows make money, so we ain't had a problem with that yet. We do
How
invest. Go ahead.
How often do you like to run Omega?
I only like to do it like 4 times a year because our shows are big. But since my duties in TNA and Matt and Jeff's schedules picked up so heavy due to their recent reinvention of their characters, it's been really tough. We haven't done a show in the last year, but not for bad reasons, for the best of reasons, just because we're too busy. But in that time, I had championships made, tag team championships. That's another thing with my company. I want our championships to be great. If you can't afford a title,
I was about to bring that up. I feel like that helped usher in a bit of a change in independent wrestling, because I see a lot more companies doing that now. Like I have a couple of title belts over here from that Turdy promotion. that they had me win, and they're the typical replica belts. That ain't the case for your company. That ain't the case for Monster Factory Pro Wrestling. Danny Cage is real good about that.
Right.
And
Yeah, that was
I know your belts actually inspired Global Force to get some beautiful titles as well.
Yeah, like I just knew. I knew how I felt when I was a kid and I saw Ric Flair's big gold belt, or I saw Bockwinkel's big AWA belt, and some of the really great titles. It's like, man, I want to hold that one day. You know, I want to be that champion. And then you see some titles, you're like, man, look at that shit. You know, so I wanted to create titles that not only the fans like, but if you can get the boys to mark out for them, then you're doing something. And I see it like anytime, you know, we'll have the Omega title kind of laying out, and you'll see guys walk by and look at it, and you can see a gleam in their eye. And that's what championships are supposed to do. You know, it's not just supposed to be a big logo, your company logo on a fucking piece of metal. And that doesn't do anything for me. Like I want people to look at it and go, man, that's fucking awesome. And so that's what our belts do. And I spread that message, and there was a reason I kept posting all the videos and pictures of that belt as much as I have. Like, let the people know our shit is better than yours.
I think we should do a full show on championship belts one day. No disrespect to TNA, but I think several of their older championships looked a hell of a lot better than the ones they got now. Like that Kurt Angle TNA championship with the Eagle was beautiful. I posted a picture of Mickey James with the old Knockouts championship with the white strap. That was a work of art. Well, my question is
that X Division title.
Oh yeah, it looks like it was designed for you though.
Yeah, right. That was just a coincidence that happened.
When the hell's Marty Garner going to come back and defend that Omega New Frontiers championship?
I think Marty's completely out of the business now. So there'll be no. I tried to get him to do commentary. He's really funny on the microphone. That was his biggest strength. The mic work was a lot better than his ring work. But he'll tell you that. But he's moved on with his life. I think he.
After that pedigree Triple H gave him, I don't blame him.
Yeah, that might have been it. That might have killed all 9 lives at once.
I remember when I saw that, I came home from like church or something, and I watched WWF Superstars, and I thought he died.
I think he did.
That's why he can't defend the New Frontiers Championship.
Yep.
Oh man. Yeah, guys, if you all haven't seen that, go check that out. And unfortunate. That's what a lot of people know him as, because he's a very talented dude.
Yeah, he's good.
He actually worked MVP like 10 years later. I remember on WWE TV.
I think it was MVP's debut.
It was.
If I'm not mistaken. Was it? Yeah, I could be mistaken.
I remember I saw him and I was like, I swear to God, that's Marty Garner. And then they said it. I was like, it is Marty Garner. That was pretty cool. So goals for Omega or any promotion that you run in the future, like do you ever try to build up to something? Do you like you always hear things like this, if so-and-so promotion would have stayed doing what they were doing, then they'd still be in business today. You hear that about a lot of promotions, and that seems to be the model that a PWG is really embracing, that hey, we're not leaving our 450 seat venue, we'll jack ticket prices up and we'll still sell out and we'll be in business. Is that your mentality, or do you have a different type of mentality?
Well, I think you always get better. You always should be improving from a production standpoint. I always want, I wasn't going to go dump $20,000 right out of the gate into a ring and a big setup and turnbuckle pads and aprons and all this kind of shit. But I wanted at least every show to get a little something else. So when whatever money we make on the show, it goes back into the company. I don't put it in Shane Helms' pocket or Mike Howe or David Coates or Jim Hall. We don't, we give ourselves our little fee, and it's moderate. It's more than I get paid on other indie shows. So normally I'm kind of taking a loss because, I'm having to take this weekend off where I could be making this X amount, but I'm going to go work my ass off to make even a smaller amount. But I want I want this company to grow. So, I didn't have any problem doing that, but I think from a production standpoint, you just keep getting bigger and bigger and making it better as far as the product building out there, and just don't get ahead of yourself, man. Don't jump in that damn deep end if you can't tread water.
Well, as I mentioned, you're a creative dude, and I mean, sometimes you just got to have those creative juices flowing. You got to have those creative urges filled, and I mean, I think that's a big part of it as well. Guys, a little explanation on how the shoot or work thing will work out. Any stories about wrestling? Maybe a little, little iffy. You don't know if they're real. You don't know if there are a lot of people who didn't know if the Vince McMahon tearing his quad thing, or not the Vince McMahon tearing his quad, the finish of the 2005 Royal Rumble was a shoot or a work. They didn't know if that was planned or not. Everything from that to if Shane thinks that the Cash Me Outside girl is actually a genius in disguise. Is that a shoot or a work?
I don't think she's a genius, but I think that she's monopolizing on
Did you see what she said to Dr. Phil when she came back?
Yeah, I think so. I think she just got off listen, just be a douchebag and it's gonna work even better. It's worked great so far, so keep being douchey and we'll see how far it goes.
Personally, I think "thank you for that" is a way better quote than "Cash Me Outside." Dr. Phil hitting her back.
Riveted.
He was great. That was perfect. I think that Dr. Phil is following the template of Maury Povich and Jerry Springer. It's like you have your 10-year run of really very important topics, serious things. Then you just say, fuck it.
Fuck it. Yep. Without a doubt.
Fuck it. Fuck it. Also a question that I didn't ask you. If King Maxwell gets booked, does he get a payoff or does that just go straight to Matt?
I think it goes straight to Rebby, no matter what, even if it's
Matt. That's true.
Straight to Rebby. Another thing too that's important that we really didn't touch on this is the advertising aspect. Our guy David Taylor, Coates, he does all the artwork, the digital artwork, and so our posters would look really good. It wasn't some. I've seen those hanging up in convenience stores where you see this poster and it look like some, fucking kid with Photoshop made it. Not even Photoshop, whatever that first gimmick, Paint Pro that came with Windows 3.1, like he made it with that shit. It takes a little bit of money to make money. So, we get big banners and that are, quality, high quality advertisement and stuff like that. If you can find some radio, do it. It isn't just about Facebook booking, because I see that a lot on indie shows. They're just, especially when they're booking a TV guy, myself or whoever, and they just want us to tweet about it and Facebook about it. And that's going to bring in people. Like, man, I don't know who the fuck's on Twitter anymore. I don't know what that's going to do. So I don't even know how many I have on Twitter, and I don't know how many of those people are in your area. I don't know what that means. So it's more than just, social media booking, social media advertising. You need to get your ass out there, hang those posters up, make them good looking posters. Don't put 80 fucking people on there that I can't tell who anybody is. Have a couple people that somebody's going to recognize. Have I try to have a mascot on there. Normally that's me, but because the lucha element that is, we got a big Latin population in North Carolina. So there's always going to be a mascot on mine because I wanted to entice them. Somebody that might not even can read English, but they see the wrestling. And I've made almost every show, we make Spanish posters too and go hang them in the Spanish side. Good idea. Yeah, of course. That's what I do.
Here's an example of Coates' work, guys. His best work of all time. For those of you who can't see. Now, does it ever enter your mind, maybe I shouldn't hire somebody who's such a shitty fantasy football player? Does that ever enter your
Now, he's a much better graphic artist than he is a fantasy football player, no doubt. No, but there's really nothing we can do about it.
Much.
But he's a Tar Heel fan, so he doesn't really know a lot about great athletics. So, yeah, be that as it.
They can't all be Kentucky basketball fans like your boy Sean Ross Sapp.
Tonight, actually, this will be me against Coates because the NC State Wolfpack is playing the Carolina Tar Heels. So by the time this comes out, hopefully my pack will have prevailed, but the odds are against them to do so.
Hey, at this point, I'm just trying to get an NBA team here in Kentucky. We've been given false hope all these years. I'm ready for it. I want it. Shane, anything to tell these people before we go? And, of course, guys, if there's anything I missed, send it to me on Twitter. We'll cover that at the beginning of the next show. Obviously, follow us at Fightful Wrestle, Fightful MMA, Fightful Online. But, Shane, where can they follow you?
At Shane Helms.com. cross-platform. That's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Tumblr. Everything is at ShaneHelms.com. Just because my website is ShaneHelms.com, you can buy yourself a T-shirt, an 8x10. I might even eventually mail that shit out. I have a couple that I missed recently, and I didn't even know until I get an email from PayPal saying, "Hey, bitch." So yeah, do that. Also, too, we talked about this off air. I want to do this one. I want to recommend this book, Damned. It is a
Cursing on the air.
Graphic novel, graphical literature, as I would say in WWE days. It's not for kids, but it's a damn good book. Put out by Boom Studios. Because, man, my comic fans, we're worldwide. Y'all thought we was a small group of people, but we're worldwide. Not for kids. So don't drop that around your third grader.
Guys, send in any topics you want us to cover. Obviously, we're going to get to stuff like Shane's angle with The Rock. We're going to get to his agent duties in TNA. We're going to get to that one that we talked about, injuries and botches in wrestling, because Shane seems to be around for everything, from like Sid's leg break to Vince McMahon's quad tear. We'll talk about backstage reactions to the invasion angles, another one we will obviously get to. Anything, and deletion, I'm sure that's something we'll eventually talk about. But send in any topics that you want us to cover. We'll evaluate them and make an executive decision on such. Guys, Fightful.com. Register at Fightful.com to get early access to these beautiful podcasts. Shane, I want to thank you for being so honest and candid about running shows, because there aren't a lot of people that we can just talk to and have elaborate on the situation as it pertains to booking, advertising, marketing, setting up, and then buying a chair that gets smashed. There's not a lot of people we can talk to about that.
Exactly. And the best way to make $2 million in the wrestling business is to start out with $5 million.
You think Dixie would do a shoot with me?
She might. I think she might have some free time these days.
We're out.